There is no better way to have my first guest on, no better person than Dr. Robert Jeffress, unfortunately, under bad circumstances with the unbelievable invasion of that church in the Twin Cities. Dr. Robert Jeffress joining me on the Krok Talk podcast. Dr. Jeffress, thank you for joining me today.
Well, it's great to be with you, and congratulations on the new podcast. It's great.
Thank you. It's great to have you with me. So we saw this invasion of a church in St. Paul, City's Church. It was horrifying to me, but what was your reaction? What was your initial reaction, and what is it today?
Well, as a pastor myself, my first reaction was I want to be sure that our security is what it needs to be in light of these lunatics who are running around in our country. And I think every church needs to evaluate their own security. As a pastor, I have the responsibility to protect the sheep, and that means making sure nobody is able to take control of the service for whatever reason. But beyond that concern, I just thought about how tragic not only the situation in St. Paul, but you have this bishop who is telling ministers to prepare for martyrdom as they confront law enforcement officers. I mean, what a twisted message to give to people. Look, Chris, the Bible's very clear on this, and that is that as Christians, we have a duty to obey the governing authority. And there has been a loss of respect for the law. The Bible calls it lawlessness, and there's been a lack of respect for people who enforce the law. You know, Romans chapter 13 is a chapter in which Paul makes it very clear that all government is established by God. There is no government power that exists that has not been established by God. Now, people want to argue with that, and they can argue with Paul or God about it, but it's in the Bible. And the Bible says law enforcement authorities, government authorities, are ministers of God to protect those who are righteous and punish evildoers. You know, people forget that God created three institutions. He didn't just create the church. He created the family and he created government, and all have unique responsibilities. God says the purpose of government is to punish evildoers and protect the righteous. And these ICE agents, they are doing what they've been charged to do, and ultimately they report to God for what they've done. And if they are acting in a way that is wrong or against the law, they need to pay for it. But my brother was a Dallas policeman for 30 years, and he'd be the first to tell you, not all police are perfect. They make mistakes, but most of them are doing a good job for the good reason, and we need to show them respect. To obey the governing authorities is ultimately to obey God himself.
Dr. Jeffress, you have said exactly, there's two things I said yesterday that you hit on. Number one, every church needs to have a plan and must assume that this is going to happen to them, sadly. Accurate or not?
Oh, it's very accurate. And people say, well, we're not a big church like First Baptist Church in Dallas, where Pastor Jeffress is. We can't have, paid security. Well, then have unpaid security. Have volunteers. There are people in churches who have a background in law enforcement, or they can be trained to do what's needed to be done. I believe our Department of Homeland Security actually offers churches free training on how to protect your congregation. But we need to get past whining that it shouldn't be this way and, the good old days and so forth. Get beyond that. Get over that and make sure you've got a plan for your church. I tell you, Chris, I would not go to a church as a member that didn't have a security plan for me, for my children, for my grandchildren.
Dr. Jeffress, I also said this yesterday insanely firmly. An attack on one of these churches is an attack on all. Your thoughts on that?
It is. And it's not whether we agree with them doctrinally or not. That's not the issue. The issue is that no church ought to be attacked. People of faith, regardless of their faith, should have the right to exercise their faith in safety and in peace. And we, to paraphrase Benjamin Franklin, we better hang together or we're going to hang separately.
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm such a uh, outspoken person on the subject of religious freedom, and why I applaud President Trump so much for what he's done to instill and protect religious freedom in America. It's the first freedom, the most important freedom, and we can't allow government, but we certainly can't allow lawless people to come in and inhibit and try to take away what our forefathers gave their life's blood to provide for us.
That's exactly what I was saying yesterday when this came out, that this literally is the bedrock of the founding of this country at stake here, right?
It is. Yeah. I mean, you look at the First Amendment, there are a number of freedoms that are enumerated in the Constitution: the freedom of the press, which I believe strongly in, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. But the first freedom our founding fathers instituted was the free exercise of faith. That's how important faith was to our founding fathers.
Very important question for you, Dr. Robert Jeffress, pastor at First Baptist Dallas. Do you want prosecution in this case that we've seen from what you've seen in that video in City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota? Do you support arresting those who may be charged with violating the FACE Act, violating the Ku Klux Klan Act? Your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. We are not going to stop this if we don't prosecute those who do wrong. Now, look, I very much believe in peaceful assembly. People have a right to protest vigorously within the confines of the law. We have a lot of protesters who come to First Baptist Dallas, and
yes,
they've got a regular spot. They stand up and
yes!
protest.
I was saying that in my podcast yesterday.
They try to bait us, and our people just go over.
Yes.
And they're so nice
Yes.
to them and kind to them and so forth. But if they ever come on our property and break the law, we're going to be the first in line to prosecute.
That's exactly right. Somebody said, "Where are the men?" And with the church yesterday on Sunday when this happened. What are your thoughts on that? When somebody was saying, where were the men when this was going on?
I think it's a good question. I've said often about First Baptist Dallas, about a lone gunman. Somebody may get off one shot in our church, but that would be the last thing they did in this lifetime.
That's exactly right.
We're armed and ready to go. I'm more afraid of what our deacons might do to me than I am what they might do, knowing that they're loaded. I can't preach a bad sermon or I'm in trouble.
That's exactly right.
Seriously, our people are armed and ready, but we team who knows what to do, and repeating that training right now for our lay people.
So this lead guy, with this massive beard, William Kelly, this guy who was just so vile and leading these protests and screaming and yelling, he did some post after this went down, and was saying vile, horrific, disgusting swears and just evil things. And I want to ask you this: is this what happened at that church, and is this evil? Is this satanic? Because it feels absolutely evil when you hear the vile and the sick profanity and the animosity. It seems evil to me. To you?
Oh, absolutely. It comes from the pit of hell. And just look at the effect of this. The effect is to try to scare people from attending church. There's only one person who wants to do that, and that's Satan. He's afraid of Christians getting together because there's strength in believers coming together. And I just think this is an attack of the evil one who does possess and control certain people. And we need to recognize it for that. But remember, God has not given us a spirit of fear, the Word of God says, but of faith, power, and a sound mind. And I would just encourage anybody listening right now, don't let the enemy win. If you stay home from church, if you quit supporting your church out of fear of what might happen to you, you've played right into the enemy's hands.
Dr. Robert Jeffress, I want to ask you this too. What's your reaction? Did you see that little boy being cradled by his father as he cried, and his mother had her hand on his shoulder? Did you see that photo, and what was your reaction?
I did not see it, but it answers the question: is this from God or is it from Satan? Anybody who inspires that kind of fear and terror, that doesn't come from God. That comes from the evil one.
I thought of my son, who Isaac, who's now 22, but when he was that age,
oh my gosh,
how precious that was. We started going to First Baptist Dallas around that time. How precious that time is for my son to introduce him to Jesus, to worship with him. He's supposed to be in a sanctuary, which to me means safety, and all of that was thrown out the window. Is there similarity here in what we know about what happened to the black churches in the 50s and 60s with the attacks on them?
Yes. And I think those attacks on churches were just as satanically organized and inspired as the attacks we're seeing right now. What many people, under the disgusting disguise of faith, did in persecuting black women and fathers and children, murdering children, it's unthinkable. They're going to stand before God in judgment for doing that.
Dr. Jeffress, how complicit do you think Don Lemon is in this? He says I got a twofold question. How complicit do you think he is in this? Kissing the lady who was supposedly organizing this at the beginning of his 8-hour live stream, saying we have things that we're going to do. It's an operation pull up, and I know things I can't tell you. Walking in with them, going up and shoving a microphone in the pastor's face while he's being attacked in this church. It's so vile. He says he's a Christian. So two questions. How complicit do you think Don Lemon is in this? And he says he's a Christian. Was this Christ-like behavior?
Don who?
Don Lemon, exactly right. The disgraced former CNN, fake news CNN, host.
I actually did some interviews with Don Lemon many years ago, and he seemed like a reasonable person at that time, but I think he's gone off the deep end, and he certainly has turned his back on biblical Christianity through a number of ways in his life. But I think he is just seeking attention, and I don't think he has any influence in America today whatsoever.
Dr. Jeffress, Attorney General of the state of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, says this is a First Amendment activity to invade, take over, and completely go after people in their own church as they're worshiping. Is this a First Amendment activity? Do you agree with that?
What, an amendment to what? The Russian Constitution, the Chinese Constitution? Yeah. Certainly not to the Constitution of the United States of America. We are protected from that kind of invasion and should be. And I tell you what, I hope these Minnesotan Christians, and I know some of them, they're strong. I hope they'll stand up and throw these people out of office the first chance they get.
Also, Don Lemon said that these churchgoers at this church, which is just unbelievable what he said, but he said churchgoers there at this church have a sense of entitlement and white supremacy. What's your reaction to that?
Well, they have a sense of entitlement because it is true. They are entitled. They're entitled to being able to worship without fear. They're entitled to be able to practice their faith without hesitation. That is an entitlement that our forefathers gave to us in the Constitution. And I just think to throw that out there, that there's something racist about wanting to practice your faith in your own church, is just ridiculous. And again, it's why Don Lemon and all like him are losing influence in America. Nobody's paying attention to them. And I believe people are going to rebel against this.
The NRB released a statement today, strongly worded. And by the way, this church, City's Church, is I saw yesterday, is a Southern Baptist church. I remember the Southern Baptist outfit, the same organization we're a part of. This strikes the heart of all of us. Like I said, I just wanted to mention that. I remember the Southern Baptist Convention. The head of the National Religious Broadcasters, the NRB, delivered a statement, President and CEO, saying the American church must rise up, unite, and fight back to defend our God. How can we fight back and unite?
Well, I think first thing, protect your churches against assaults. I think that's very important. But I think it's also very important to vote our convictions. Look, the leaders we elect develop the policies that we follow, and the policies we follow as a nation determines our direction. And every time we go to vote, Chris, we're casting either a vote for righteousness or unrighteousness. And Christians have not only the right, they have the responsibility to choose godly leaders who will protect religious liberty. You know, John Jay was the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And John Jay said, God has given us the privilege to choose our leaders. And it is our duty as well as our obligation to choose and prefer Christians as our leaders. And I think that's very clear that Christians need to be involved. heavily involved in voting for and choosing righteous candidates who will develop righteous policies that will determine the future of our nation.
People say that we should separate religion and politics, or from our. That's the exact opposite. The Bible should be our guiding post. It should be the direction of all things with our voting, with our lives. Correct, sir?
Absolutely. Faith is not limited to what you do 1 hour on Sunday morning in your church. Christianity should affect every choice you make, every decision you make in your marriage, in your work, with your finances, and yes, in your politics.
Dr. Jeffress, one more question. This radical, crazed guy that was screaming and yelling that showed up, he shows up at churches, the Church of Christ, where Pete Hegseth is a member in D.C. He's been arrested by the Secret Service. He says vile swears and stuff like that to people there in D.C., so he goes around as a professional protester. He was in a mosque and did a live stream going into a mosque and saying how beautiful it was, and this is where people come to pray. Does it surprise you that he's okay with a mosque, but not okay with a church, and that he doesn't go in and charge a mosque where gays, and not all mosques, but a lot of them support, stoning of gays, like the Siraj Wahaj, the guy who got the endorsement of the current, mayor of New York City, advocating for stoning of gays. Does this surprise you? They're going into a mosque and saying everything's great?
It doesn't surprise me at all. And look, there are many peace-loving Muslims in our country.
Right.
But Islam is a false religion, and it does not lead people to the true God. Islam was founded by a false prophet and a false book, and it is an error. It does not lead people to God. The only way to God is through faith in Jesus Christ. So the fact that this maniac would leave a Muslim church alone is not surprising. But I want to be clear in saying I believe Muslims should have freedom to express their faith in America. The fact is, tolerance means giving people the right to be wrong. And I think that's what our country is founded on. Everybody has a choice to make when it comes to faith in God.
Last thing, Dr. Robert Jeffress, and that is this. I firmly say that I believe why Christians are under attack, why Christians are always picked on and gone after in these instances, and not mosques or any other places, is because we stand for and we represent, because Christianity is the truth. And they will not go after the lie. They will only go after the truth. We are a threat to them because we worship and stand for the truth, which is that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, the only Son of God. He is our Savior. And they come after you, and Jesus said, the world will hate me. So I believe they're coming after us, and they don't go after the mosques and other places because we are the truth. We believe the truth, and that's why they come after us.
I think you're right, but I want to leave on a note of hope. Remember, the Bible says, greater is he, the Holy Spirit who is in you, than he who is in the world. In the end, God wins, and so do all who follow him in the spirit and truth.
Dr. Robert Jeffress, first guest on the Krok Talk podcast. Thank you very much. It's been an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to have you on, sir. Thank you. We'll see you.
Great to be with you.
We'll see you at church on Sunday.
Look forward to it.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
Chris.
Take care. All right, there he goes. We're going to continue now with the live podcast, the Krok Talk podcast, and I'm just grateful for Dr. Robert Jeffress for joining me. I want to read a few statements from the NRB and from the actual church itself in St. Paul before we get into the latest with the prosecution, the charges, and I've got a lot of new sound bites and audio that came out today, including from that guy, William Kelly, with that beard who's screaming and yelling. He had a press conference today with some of these other people. He was mentioning this bishop, saying it's their faith and it's their they need to stand up and go after this stuff to attack another church. One thing that my pastor, Dr. Robert Jeffress, who we just talked to, taught me, when I had him on, and you're going to get the unvarnished truth here, we're just talking. I had him on years ago when I first started. I went over to WBAP from KLIF, and I had Dr. Jeffress on, and I was asking him about one of these other pastors in the area who's doctrinally sound, but I think does silly, stupid things. You know what he said to me? And he says it almost every time you talk to him about any of this stuff with somebody doing something. He will not go after another church because it is not about trying to tear other churches down. Okay, you speak the truth, And if somebody's undoctrinal or somebody's teaching something that's doctrinal, you preach about that, you talk about that. But he doesn't tear down other churches. And that's exactly what these fake Christians are doing, these faux Christians that are invading that church in the city's church in St. Paul. They are destroying and tearing down, attempting to destroy, tear down, and deunify and take down from within a church, a biblical, doctrinal church. That is evil. And I'm glad he said that clearly. I wasn't surprised. The elders of the city's church where this happened. And by the way, let's go to the picture. This says it all. This says absolutely everything. This is the picture that says it all. That is it right there. There's the young child, like he could be my son, with his dad cradling him, crying. Dad, this is our worship center. This is a sanctuary. We're supposed to be safe. A sanctuary is a safe place. What is going on, Dad? Terrifying a child and his family in the most precious place, his sanctuary, where that boy will stand up and give his life to Jesus and accept Jesus as his Lord and Savior, where that boy will come up and stand in the baptismal and be baptized like I did to my son, like I did to my daughter. It's terrorism. I said it yesterday and I'll say it again. It's terrorism. Yesterday morning, on Monday morning, I was on in Arizona at KFY in Phoenix at a big station there, and I was talking about that, saying those exact things. All right. The elders of City's Church released a lengthy statement. I'm just going to read some of it, a couple of highlights. On Sunday, January 18th, a group of agitators jarringly disrupted our worship gathering. They accosted members of our congregation, frightened children, created a scene marked by intimidation and threat. Such conduct is shameful, unlawful, and will not be tolerated. Dr. Jeffress said it. You listen to me. I told you this yesterday. I'm proud that he said the same thing I was saying yesterday, backed it up. You have to have a plan. You have to plan on this happening in your church. And as he said, if you don't have security that has a plan, it doesn't have to be paid security. If you don't have a security plan at your church, I wouldn't bring your child, is what he said. Make sure the security, plan for this. This is the beginning of what's going to keep happening. Not at the mosques, but at our churches. Let me read on. Church buildings, the city's church says, are meant to be places of peace and solace where worshipers can hear and live out this message. We therefore call on state, local, and national leaders to protect this fundamental right. We are evaluating next steps with our legal counsel. Those are the elders of City's Church. The national religious broadcasters, just a few words that they released, and I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty on the news and everything. I just have to share this with you. It's all in my heart. The national religious broadcasters, quote, vehemently condemns the premeditated attack. Don Lemon and all those people were part of a premeditated attack on a church. It's terrorism. I cannot sugarcoat it. It's terrorism. They vehemently condemn the premeditated attack on City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota, where radical protesters stormed the sanctuary and terrorized worshipers during a Sunday service. Terrorism. Terrorize for political gain, for political reasons, to get people to bend them to their political will, which is terrorism. Using violence or the threat of violence or intimidation is terrorism. It doesn't have to be radical Islamists. These violators, the NRB says, who have previously targeted other congregations, continuing on from the CEO, this outrageous assault on a house of God is a wake-up call for every American who values freedom. Christians are under siege as the most persecuted religious group in our nation. That's why, what's her name, Nicki Minaj tweeted out there and said Don Lemon needs to go to jail. I told you, I tied this into the church in Nigeria. I know we're not being slaughtered, but it's the same damn thing. We're being prosecuted. Christians are under siege as the most persecuted religious group in our nation, facing escalated hostility from those who seek to silence our faith. They seek to silence our faith. These protesters didn't just interrupt the service, they desecrated a sacred sanctuary, frightened families, harassed innocent believers, directly challenged our constitutional right to worship without fear or coercion, targeting a church over a pastor's bivocational role. He may or may not have been a ICE officer on the side. Is a blatant attack on religious liberty. American churches must rise up, unite, and fight back. Let's do some video. Here is, so I showed you this picture of the. Now here's Don Lemon stalking like a sick, like a sick goon, stalking these children, talking about how they're terrified and they're hugging their parents as they flee, and this sick goon thinks that this is okay, or somehow it's journalism.
Watch this guy here. Look, he's hugging his kid.
Hold on, let me get that back up. Hold on, here we go. I'm gonna restart that. And
Watch this guy here. Look, he's hugging his kid. And you know, I just imagine it's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here. But again,
Don Lemon is part of something that is uncomfortable and traumatic. A child hugging his parents. He's a terrorist.
It's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here. But again, careful. It's very slippery right here. Yeah. It's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here. But that's what really careful, please. Really slippery. Not kidding. That's what protesting is about.
In his own words, he put them through trauma. Children. Terrorism. Let's go to when Don Lemon stuck a microphone in this guy's face, the pastor's face, and how uncomfortable he was as his church was being taken over by terrorists.
What do you think of this?
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
Okay, but listen, we live there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
Yeah. We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus, because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world, is Jesus.
This is not protest. This is invading, taking over, and disrupting a church. It's just disgusting. Now, Harmeet Dillon. I'm going to play you some new audio from AG Harmeet Dillon, Attorney General Harmeet Dillon, because very important to know. She is saying, you're wondering possibly why are we not seeing charges? Why are we not seeing arrests yet? Because, well, she'll explain it for herself. This is why they haven't done any arrests yet for the feds. It's different for local and federal.
State prosecutors could have arrested some of these people yesterday. They don't have some of the same hurdles that we do in the DOJ. When DOJ, we gather our facts, we go to a federal judge. A federal judge has to issue the search warrants. We all know what the federal judges are doing right now in Minnesota. We will pursue charges in this case. I see various crimes that have occurred. Exactly what they are, I'm not going to flag, but the FACE Act has been mentioned as one of the...
Get those SOBs in jail. Now, I want you to hear something else. This is Adelita Grijalva. I'm familiar with her because I fill in Phoenix quite frequently at the talk station I mentioned earlier, KFYI. She is newly sworn in from her father, Raul Grijalva, who had passed away. I want you to hear what she says, because this is disgusting. I want you to listen to this. We're going to pick this apart. You have to hear this. Listen closely. Excuse me.
Do you believe it was a step too far for protesters to go into a church?
I don't. I think that when they find out that someone that's supposed to be speaking for the community in church is found out to be an ICE, like a federal agent that is running ICE in their communities, they have the right to go in there. Churches have always been an open door. And from my understanding in the videos that I saw, those protesters were not violent in any way.
She said when somebody is at a church, they're supposed to be speaking on behalf of the community. This woman is telling me what my church is supposed to say. I repeat, she said a church is supposed to be speaking on behalf of the community. She is freaking telling me and you what our churches are supposed to say. She is literally saying, you, church, are going to say what I want you to say, and if you don't, we can come in and take over your service. I'm going to play this again. This is bedrock, serious. Come on, woman, start speaking. Here we go. Hold on. Here we go.
Do you believe it was a step too far for protesters to go into a church?
I don't. I think that when they find out that someone that's supposed to be speaking for the community in church is found out to be an ICE, like...
When somebody is supposed to be speaking on behalf of the community. So now the litmus test is, if radical leftist Marxists don't think your pastor is speaking on behalf of the community, to their definitions, they will come in and take over and terrorize your congregants and take over your services. This is terrorism. It is unreal what that woman said. It is unfreaking real. It's disgusting. Here's this guy, William Kelly held a press conference today with these other bishops and these other people that said they were protesting by taking over our church. This is just absolutely disgusting. I cannot begin to continue to describe how, well, Dr. Jeffress said it, satanic and evil this is, how wrong this is, how it's terrorism, how it goes against everything this country stands for, the very bedrock and founding of this country. Here's this William Kelly guy who's a professional protester who has been arrested previously by the Secret Service in D.C. for saying, and I'll read you the charges here, vile, horrible things. He has said vile, horrible things. Here it is. This is from Fox News this afternoon. William Kelly, you're going to see this guy with the big beard and he's swearing and all sick things and everything, he went into a member of Christ Church in D.C., Washington, D.C., where Pete Hegseth is a member, told Fox News that he immediately recognized William Kelly as a part of a group that has been pestering worshipers on a routine basis at Christ Church in D.C. Quote, William Kelly is a regular outsider on our church. He screams incredibly vile and gross things at families, at children, at people. He's called my wife a C-word, says this anonymous person who goes, a whore, a Nazi breeder, all sorts of things, says the member telling Fox News this afternoon. Secret Service is moving forward with disorderly conduct charges against him in a recent video. It's been a good education for my children, says this member of Christ Church in D.C., it's been a good education for my children to understand what type of people use these words. Metro PD in D.C. has done a good job, they say, of keeping congregants physically safe from this guy. You heard Dr. Jeffress. We have people that protest all the time. I pass them up all the time on the sidewalk. Nobody does anything bad. Nobody says anything bad, and they can do what they want on the sidewalk. They cannot come into our church or else, as you heard him say. We got a plan, and you need to have one too. Let's hear this crazed lunatic William Kelly, who appears to be a professional paid protester who does this. Oh, I've got video of him in D.C. Here he is in D.C. doing this. He does this professionally. This is his full-time job, I guess.
You realize that you can see all these pretend Christians, all these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps. You're living real life, nice lives with your lattes, doing absolutely nothing for your Latino and Somali brothers and sisters. You come here to a man.
I was 11 Bravo. I got out in
preacher.
2011.
Did Jesus
I
wear
did
a
fuck
suit?
up my rank
Did
there.
Jesus
You got me there, but I was not a good soldier.
No.
I have a problem
Jesus
with authority. But apparently you don't. You don't believe in the Constitution, but at least I believe in that.
So there he is protesting. The National Guardsman deployed to D.C. This is what he does all the time. It's a sick, evil way to live. He's never too late for Jesus, but there he is. Now here he is today at this press conference they held, saying some. We'll just play what he says.
I mean, what we're seeing around this country is they're using their political influence to attack people that disagree with them. They're going to come at me with charges, and I'm not scared of that. There's no base for these charges. I did not block them from, their service. They welcomed us in. They never asked us to leave. The police never came in and removed us. So we didn't stop their service. In fact, people were still praying the entire time. The music...
The police couldn't come in because you snuck in, you barged in. There was no time to get the cops there.
Still playing the entire time. So, Pam Bondi, you want to come and arrest me? You want to come and give me charges? So be it. And for all the people giving me death threats, threatening my life, kill me. Go ahead, kill me. Because you know what? As Fred Hampton said, you can kill the revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution.
He said they kept praying. They were fine. Does that look like somebody's praying to you and fine? He's a terrorist. That's what he... All right, so there you go. Yeah, they don't look. They look afraid. They don't look like they're praying and everything's fine. It's a sick man. I want to play Don Lemon co-conspiring with these people, where he's dead in the water, as far as I'm concerned. Here we go. Here, let's play this.
People who are wearing the uniform now, you think they're patriots?
I don't think so, especially those ICE agents.
That's what I'm talking
no.
about. Yeah. Well,
No, they're terrorists. They're traitors.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your service.
Today we had the honor to protest.
Thank you for your service. So there he is, Don Lemon, with his co-conspirators there. Here's what Harmeet Dillon says. You heard her. I played it for you. She's the Assistant U.S. Attorney General for the United States of America, Division of Civil Rights. She said this: Minnesota state prosecutors could have made arrests yesterday. The DOJ must first go before a federal judge to obtain an arrest warrant. That's what you heard her say a moment ago. The FACE Act is what I think they might have them these guys on, to use or threaten to use force to injure, intimidate, or interfere with a person, intimidate, with a person lawfully trying to exercise the First Amendment right of religious freedom at a place of religious worship. To me, it's dead in the water. The Ku Klux Klan Act, which, just like Dr. Jeffress said, he agreed with me, that in the 50s and 60s when blacks were intimidated and terrorized in their churches, that's the same thing going on today with Christ Church, or excuse me, with City's Church in Minneapolis, St. Paul. The Ku Klux Klan Act makes it a federal crime for individuals to deny citizens their civil rights. Nail them on both counts. By the way, a couple other things too. There's a guy who was a top aide in the Hennepin County Prosecutor's Office. Top aide in the Hennepin County Prosecutor's Office. That's Minneapolis, where Hennepin County is. He was one of the people that interrupted and took over the church service and terrorized these people. One of the top staff members on the prosecution for Hennepin County. His wife is a city council member in St. Paul. He's running for for Senate, I believe, for District 65 in Minnesota. And he was telling people this and saying it out loud when he was being interviewed on that 8-hour live stream that Don Lemon did. I mean, it's unbelievable. This is an area in rebellion of the federal government that needs the Insurrection Act. I've told you yesterday they're shutting down 2 hotels in downtown St. Paul, one the Intercontinental, one the Doubletree by Hilton, because there were some ICE agents there and people were threatening and doing death threats and all sorts of threats at the hotels. So the hotels shut down, kicked everybody out. You've got roving gangs of people that are accosting software developers who are eating lunch in Minneapolis at a diner, and they think that they're ICE. They're harassing them. You've got gangs going up to and harassing and forcing people to take off sweatshirts that have American flags on them. It's out of control. This is from the not Minnesota. This is from the Free Beacon. Chuck Ross. A defiant Don Lemon mocked churchgoers Monday, saying they had a sense of entitlement that stems from white supremacy. I'm looking at a young man in the corner, Don Lemon said, and this is where he's, I think he's dead in the water. I'm looking at a young man in the corner. He's frightened. He's crying. He's scared, Don Lemon narrated from inside the church. That's exactly a violation of the, I think it's called the FACE Act, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to make sure I get that right again. That is exactly a violation of the FACE Act. Quote, I'm looking at a young man in the corner, Don Lemon said. He's frightened. He's crying. He's scared. Inside of the church, he said that. That's a violation of the FACE Act. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, I think I've got some video of him. I think I have some. No, I think I ditched it. Anyways, he said that this is nothing. There's no case here. This is the same district attorney for the state of Minnesota, or DA for the state of Minnesota, or attorney general for the state of Minnesota, who literally tried to prosecute people and threatened. He submitted a brief in 2020, a federal lawsuit accusing a Minneapolis woman of violating the First Amendment rights of parishioners at a mosque outside of Minneapolis, Dar al-Farouk Mosque, by filming them without their permission. He also went after another case where people were standing outside of the mosque on public property having rifles. He tried to get them. He tried to take them down with that. A brief in a federal lawsuit. So it's not okay to film people outside of a mosque, or to have lawfully carrying rifles outside of a mosque on public property. I wouldn't want that either, by the way. So it's not okay for you to film people outside of a mosque, but it's okay for you to trash a church. That's your Minnesota Attorney General, Keith Ellison. It is absolutely vile. Some more audio, video on this, and then we're going to get into other stuff here in Greenland. We got Dallas Fort Worth news. Okay. Let's get into that. Here is, let's see. Here is a little segment from CNN yesterday, and this guy says it right. A conservative commentator on CNN actually hits it right.
Totally disagreed. Because of what a pastor does for a living, or what they're involved in politically, gives no one the right. There was a child in that video who was sitting in their father's arms, shaking, confused, trying to figure out what's going on when these people burst into this church. And Lee, what I would say is people have a First Amendment right and the ability to go and protest against ICE. If they don't like ICE, be my guest, go protest. But those people in that church, I would say and, not but, those people in that church absolutely have a First Amendment right to gather and worship the God of their choosing. And I'll say a point here is it is actually Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the day that we recognize his contribution to the country today. His mother in 1974 was shot and killed in a church because of political violence, because the KKK wanted to insert their political will over a community. This is remarkably similar to that. I remember my great-grandfather telling me stories about church bombings in the South, remarkably similar to that.
Real quickly, Condi Rice, her church was firebombed, and her dad said, "This is why we're Republicans." This guy's spot on.
Everyone at this table should
so
have
the protest is similar to the person getting
Let me finish,
shot,
please.
but
Everyone
the
at this
person getting
table,
shot is
everyone
not.
at this table, please, should have absolutely no issue saying that this was wrong, it was reprehensible behavior, and this is not the appropriate way that we address our grievances in this country.
So which
stop.
innocent people are and are not allowed to get shot as far as you're concerned?
That's not what I'm talking about. People have a right in this country, regardless of what your political convictions are, to worship freely and safely. And no one should watch a child on camera like what we saw, trembling in their father's arms because of your political convictions.
ICE does to children
I'm sorry,
and their families.
Your political convictions do not overstep someone's ability to worship safely and securely.
No, but stop making it about worship. Did I call that into question?
I'm sorry,
saying,
guys.
If you're
I respect
talking about
you, but
children,
there's no but.
If ICE does something we don't like, we can destroy or invade your church and terrify you in your own house of worship. That is absolutely false. There is no equivocation. If this, then that is not how it works. You do not violate our rights because you don't like what happened with the police shooting or with an ICE shooting. Let's go to Greenland. I'm going to go right to this one here. This is these are some posts that Trump got some texts from the leaders with Greenland. Here we go. This is from NATO's head, Mark Rutte. He said this, and these are texts that Trump posted on Truth Social last night. Mr. President, about Greenland. Mr. President, dear Donald. I love that. Daddy. Remember when he called him Daddy? Mr. President, dear Donald, what you accomplished in Syria today is incredible. I will use my media engagements in Davos to highlight your work there in Gaza and in Ukraine. I'm committed to finding a way forward in Greenland. Can't wait to see you. Yours, Mark Rutte. Then here is Macron. My friend, we are totally in line with Syria. We can do great things on Iran. I do not understand what you are doing on Greenland. Let us try to build great things. Can I set up a G7 meeting after Davos in Paris on Thursday afternoon? I can invite the Ukrainians, the Danish, the Syrians, the Russians, in the margins. Let us have dinner together in Paris together on Thursday before you go back to the U.S., Emmanuel. Now, Trump also put this up. This is great. This is a meme. There you have Trump conquering Greenland with Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. It is officially conquered. It is over. As we say, as Jesus said, it is finished. There it is, okay? What else do I have for you here? There's a portrait in the Oval Office they just put up, and the Daily Mail says it's probably because they're quietly hinting at the invasion of Greenland. They have a portrait of James Polk, who oversaw the largest expansion of U.S. territory in history in the 1800s. So that is very exciting, guys. Mark Polk, the son of a wealthy Tennessee farmer, close friend of Andrew Jackson. This is so great. Get more land, get more land. By the way, Trump is rattling. He is going way over the top. I know that with Greenland, but it's because we're going to win. It's because we need it for strategic purposes. And I know a lot of people, like my buddy Eric Erickson, say stuff like, the president is ruining any kind of negotiations by coming in. Maybe you're right, but he's going to draw back and he's going to get something. The people of Greenland, I was reading, have they were offered like $200,000 or something like that. I was reading today in welfare, and then they never got it from the government. I am all down with giving $500,000 each, even $1 million each. It is too important to our national security, the Golden Dome, etc. Let's go to Gavin Newsom, who actually, and I'm going to have to jump ahead on this video a little bit, but Gavin Newsom actually doesn't mean to, but he actually makes Trump look really, really good with what he says here.
Nobel Prizes that are being given away. I mean, it's just pathetic. And I hope people understand how pathetic they look on the world stage. I mean, at least from an American perspective, it's embarrassing.
So what should Europe be doing?
You should decide, the Europeans should decide for themselves what to do. But one thing they can't do is what they've been doing. And they've been playing. This guy's playing folks for fools. And it's embarrassing.
Europeans think this is diplomacy and this will ultimately
this is
work.
Diplomacy with Donald Trump? He's a T-Rex. You mate with him or he devours you. One or the other.
That is actually making Trump look really good. That's freaking brilliant. That's been the line that's being quoted all day. He's making Trump look good. You either mate with him or he devours you, bites your head off. Dude, I want that guy on my team. Thank you, Gavin, for making us look better. Now, this is great. You have to see this. This is unbelievable. But from the Department of, I cannot believe this is real, but it is. This is a man in the U.S. Marshals out of Azle in suburban Dallas-Fort Worth. With the help of U.S. Marshals, Texas Rangers, Fox 4 reports, they arrested Cruz Dean Wanser for suspicious death of a 37-year-old who was found dead in her Azle home, facing several felony charges, including tampering with a human corpse, all sorts of stuff. But listen, the key is when he was arrested, he was wearing this. Look at that sweatshirt this guy's wearing when he was arrested for felony charges, tampering with a human corpse, possession of controlled substance with intent to deliver, outstanding parole violation warrant. At the time of his arrest, Fox 4 says he was seen wearing a sweatshirt reading, "I will put you in a trunk and help people look for you. Stop playing with me." Well, sometimes we have to take people for their word. Wow. From the Department of Wow. Okay, we're about to get hit. We're getting hit with some really, really severe weather, cold weather here in Dallas-Fort Worth. What do you do? Well, the first thing I want to bring up is right here, fireplace safety. Can I tell you a story? Fireplace safety. We had a whole bunch of friends over Saturday night, and one of our friends wanted the fireplace. She was cold. Everybody's cold. We have a gas fireplace. I have not lit that freaking thing up in like a year or two, maybe longer. So the key, you know how you have a key that goes into the wall and you can turn the gas on? I turned it on and I went all the way to the very end. I wasn't thinking. I open up the fireplace, window things, and I get a long lighter that we have, and I put it in there, and dude, everybody thought, I mean, it was like literally the guys that were there with me, the ladies and guys, all these couples, said it was like a freaking fire-breathing dragon. Dude, I was this close to getting my hair. It was the funniest thing in the world. It was a definite conversation piece for the rest of the night. This whole area here was hot, like probably like whatever the mildest burn is, like a sub first degree burn. And then here it was like hot. It was hot here for the whole 2-3 hours. But nonetheless, I survived. But dude, don't do what I did. Turn it on low and light it at the bottom. I mean, I cannot believe that I had my head up my butt. What else? Cover your pipes before the ice and snow arrive. Absolutely. My friend Jim Dutton from Texas Home Improvement says you can put he puts a 5-gallon bucket over his spigot. I wrap mine up. I have this foam you can get that goes around it, and I tape it up. I leave it on year-round up to the top, and then where the spigot is, I have a hood taped up of towels and stuff. Absolutely. And then leave your do not drip your faucets. I'm going to have Jim on maybe tomorrow night because rivers freeze is what Jim says over and over again for years when I have him on my show. Rivers freeze. So rivers that are moving freeze. Moving water doesn't freeze. It doesn't just can be frozen too, like rivers. For example, So open up your cabinets where only when your faucets are on the walls of the outside. If it's on the inside, it doesn't matter. Open up your cabinets. When it gets really cold for 15 hours straight or something like that, I will put a space heater that'll be on low, warming up that under the sink there, and you'll put your hand on the back of that cabinet, and it is pretty hot. But that's what I do. And then yes, know where your water shutoff valve is, dude. So many people don't know where the water shutoff valve is. I know where mine is. I have the thing to turn it. I go run to my shed, run out there, and shut it off. If God forbid something should happen. This won't shock you. Ready? Exclusive. Bernie Sanders skipped every meeting. Bernie Sanders skipped every meeting in 18 years on the Holocaust Museum Board record show from the New York Post. That's just disgusting. It doesn't surprise me. I believe more often than not, really selling out his own people. Really selling out his own people with the Marxist leftists. I've not gotten a chance to read this, admittedly, but William Galston of the Wall Street Journal today writing, Trump let down the Iranian protesters. I agree. He did. Let's see what he does. But I think, I mentioned this yesterday in yesterday's podcast. I think, sure, the aircraft carrier is showing up there, the other stuff, but that's not going to be there for 3 or 4 or 5 days. It's too late. People are dead. Everything's quelled down. He missed his moment. He missed his mark, and I am very unhappy about that. Fort Worth City Council member, this was sent to me by one of our local politicians. Fort Worth City Council member arrested on DWI after DPS traffic stop. Fort Worth City Council member Michael Crane arrested on suspicion of drunk driving, according to the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, from a traffic stop on the Chisholm Trail Parkway on Fort Worth Friday night, January 16th. Crane, 53, apologized in a statement for the distraction, quote-unquote, his arrest caused for his family, Fort Worth residents, and colleagues. Quote, I regret the concern and uncertainty it has created for the people I care about and serve. I will continue to respect the process and cooperate as it moves forward. To the people of District 3, please know that my commitment to you and to the city will not waver. While this difficult moment, my responsibility to serve you will not change. And I remain focused, as always, on the work ahead, serving as your representative of City Council. Let me tell you something, Michael Crane. If you were drunk, what you need to do is what my rule is for all politicians. If you get a DWI, admit it, unless you're sober and you're, which I'm highly doubtful. But if you're drunk and driving and you got nailed, admit it, deal with it, and move on. If you lie, if you pretend like it wasn't there, and you just apologize for a distraction, and you're going to keep serving us, be honest. Say, I messed up, I apologize, I'm handling this, please forgive me. That's the way to win. If you don't do this and you keep playing, you're gonna pay politically. You're gonna pay politically because ain't happening with me. You got to be honest. You got to say I own it and move forward. The longer you drag it on, the worse you look, my man, and it is a problem. It is, unless you admit it. Atmos. Speaking of my fire, my fireplace almost blowing up and breathing like a fire-breathing dragon at me because I was so stupid. Atmos asks Dallas City Council to approve a 10% rate increase for local customers. Now, I thank God I don't live in Dallas, but let me tell you something. $11 per month is what they would put on Dallas. I don't know what the heck's going on. I am not happy. I'm very upset. By the way, I told this to all my friends that were over for the fireplace. When we turned it on the other day, I said, I don't know what the heck it is, but whenever I have my fireplace on for one evening, it seems like my gas bill goes up like 80 freaking bucks. And I think I'm the only one. You can tell me in the comments section. But I feel like I'm the only one. When I have my fireplace on for a couple hours or more on a night, it seems like my gas bill goes up like 80 freaking bucks a month extra just for one time. I swear to you. So my answer would be no. And the other thing is, with Donald J. Trump unleashing energy and energy prosperity in our country. Oh, by the way, I have a great little total. I'll pull it up off my phone. I have a great little total on the success of our economics and our economy. The stock market in the first year of Donald J. Trump, because we're at his first year of presidency, the stock market is up 16%. Gas is down 10%. Oil is down 24%. Hourly wages, earnings, incomes are up. Hourly wages, earnings, and incomes are up. Gas is only $2.82 a gallon. $2.82 on an average national. That's insane. 3% growth in the third quarter. 4% growth in the fourth quarter, and now 5% growth. It's gangbusters. Electricity prices were up 30% under Joe Biden. They are up only 4% under Trump. So what I say that is, I couch it with this. What the heck has happened here with our gas prices. Why is my natural gas still through the roof? If anybody can answer that, please let me know. I should have somebody to come on about this. But it just annoys me. All right, man. Hope you enjoyed my first ever interview on the Krok Talk podcast with Dr. Robert Jeffress. If you missed it, chime in. Go to the very beginning of this podcast and watch it. We'll see you tomorrow.